Welcome back. U.S. President Joe Biden is in Israel for the second day of his tour of the Middle East. He's also expected to meet with officials from the Palestinian Authority as well as the Saudis. Now, he had made several comments about the Saudis, especially on the back of the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi at the Turkish embassy a few years ago. At the time, he said that they would make Saudi's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman basically a pariah state type of leader. Let's talk about this visit then with international relations expert John Stremlau. Prof, a very good afternoon to you. Good to have you on the program. Let's start with that point I was just putting out there about the comments made by Joe Biden at the time when Jamal Khashoggi was killed in Turkey. There was a lot of speculation. In fact, there's still a solid belief among some that the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman was involved in some capacity. He's denied that. But given what Biden had said at the time, how awkward do you expect his visit to Saudi Arabia to be?
Well, it's much more than what you've described. In the campaign, he was very explicit that there would be a new era in U.S.-Saudi relations where the Saudis would be held accountable for their many human rights abuses, including the killing of Khashoggi, and that he would put forward American democratic values as the keystone of a new relationship with the countries of the region, and that would include, of course, the Israeli killing of the Palestinian American journalist Yair, I can't remember her name right now.
Shireen Abu Akleh.
That's right. Thank you very much. And he's now walked that back. He gave a very defensive op-ed in the Washington Post just before leaving, in which he impugned his predecessor, unnamed, Donald Trump, at least to 10 occasions in this short essay for all of the wrongheadedness of his Middle East policies. But then he's now in sync with the Arab Accords that brought forth the connection between Bahrain and UAE and Israel, and his flying from Israel to Saudi Arabia leaves open the possibility of some sort of a rapprochement with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, who he's been absolutely scathing in his comments during the campaign and since.
But does it all come down then to the energy needs of the Americans when you consider that the sanctions on Russia now mean that there's a hole that needs to be plugged by the Americans and their Western allies, and people are looking to the Middle East as a source of that energy?
Well, exactly right. The price of gasoline has gone up 2.5 times since Donald Trump was in the White House. That's not of Biden's doing, and I've applauded his handling of the Ukraine crisis, as you know, and I've spoken about that on your station. But his handling now of trying to get Prince Mohammed bin Salman to open up the taps, we'll see what happens when he gets to Saudi Arabia tomorrow. But so far, MBS, as he's called, has been very careful not to increase production so that the Saudis could reap the financial benefits. And it's just a very risky proposition that Biden is putting forward. And I like to be proven wrong, but I just think this trip was unnecessary.
All right. So that's the Saudi predicament for President Joe Biden. But now he's currently in Israel, also set to meet with the Palestinian leaders. There's been a long-ranging effort, shall we say, by the United States to try and push the two to some sort of two-state solution. That's yet to happen. Now we know there have been several investigations. Even the U.S. government has released a report saying the Palestinian-American journalist Shireen Abu Akleh was in all likelihood struck by an Israeli bullet. But the Americans are basically saying in that report that they don't believe that she was executed or killed deliberately by the Israelis. The Palestinians hold a completely different view. So what does that mean then for Biden's visit to that part of the Middle East and any other future U.S.-led attempts to try and steer Israel and Palestine to that two-state solution?
Look, he didn't even mention the two-state solution in his op-ed. And I've been around this track for 30 years, And during that time, there have been 56 presidential visits to the Middle East, most of which have addressed the two-state solution, which I think is dead in the water. I mean, Abbas has been head of the Palestinian proto-state for, 17 or 18 years, and that's not going to go anywhere. In Israel, Yair Lapid, who is the caretaker prime minister, is in a politically very confused and transitional moment. But what it seems to me that Biden is prioritizing is to get Israel connected to the very partners and expanding that to include the Saudis that Donald Trump and his son-in-law, I'm loath to say, put forward during the Trump administration to get a security framework, which I think the Europeans are critical of because they think it's too militaristic. It ought to be more political.
Right.
But the Palestinians are being sold out.
John Stremlau, good to have your time. Thank you very much for being on Daytime Update today.